does my engine tick? This is a question I get from a lot of my friends and clients with the Chevy 5.3s. And in the model years 2007 and up, at least for a couple of years, are the models that are most affected by this problem. And it comes down to the trucks with the active fuel management. This is a 2007, so this is one of the older generations with the 5.3 with the active fuel management, and that is actually what causes the problem. The Silverados with the active fuel management have hydraulically actuated lifters, and what the active fuel management does on these trucks is you'll notice sometimes if you got the display there on the dash, it'll tell you if it's using the 8 or 4 cylinders. On this particular truck, I do mostly city driving, so the active fuel management really isn't even used that often, and I still had a problem with it. But when the active fuel management is engaged on these trucks, with the trucks that are equipped with it, it actually that's how the 4 cylinders are disengaged there, by those hydraulic actuated lifters not receiving or not activating. So when they're not receiving that hydraulic pressure, they're also not receiving as much lubrication as they need. So I'm trying not to get too technical, but so when you have that issue, that is the actual cause. This is also an E85 ethanol a flex fuel there. Not that really plays a part in this. But so how I fixed this was, well, the first thing I did, because I'm a big fan of Dextron, so I went out and I got a few quarts of the Max Life Dextron, I think 5 or 6, and I completely drained the oil in the engine, and it was all fairly new too. I had just done a oil change using 530, which is what the engine calls for. So I drained all that out. I put 5 quarts of Max Life Dextron automatic transfer fluid in there, ran that for about a week, and this truck was only about 100 miles, 200 miles, and I did that just to clean it out. The transmission fluid has a really good cleaning agent in it. It's very thin, it gets everywhere. It did take care of, the ticket went away a little bit. It was still there though. It certainly didn't solve the problem, but that wasn't why I had done it anyway. Like I said, it was just to get a good cleaning. You can run transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid, the red stuff, in an engine. You can do it. You can certainly do it. You can run it for 1,000 miles and it wouldn't do any damage. The manual transmissions, they take gear oil, so if you're watching this, don't go putting gear oil in your engine. Okay, it's going to be the automatic stuff. Alright, so I had to get in some better light here. But yeah, so after the Dextron, you can run it for a few days or a week, whatever's appropriate for you. A week was what I chose. You really don't have to run it for that long. Even a few hours probably would be enough just to get a good cleaning. And you're going to drain that out, and then you're going to put this stuff in. Mobil 1 high mileage synthetic 10W40. This stuff is pretty expensive. It's about $10 a quart where I am, maybe a little bit cheaper, Walmart or something, but it is worth every penny. For an oil change, you'll spend about 50 or 60 bucks between this and the filter. And we'll get to the filter afterwards. But this stuff is worth every penny. This will solve the ticking problem for these 5.3s with the AFM. Assuming your ticking noise is due to that or is caused by that. Don't get me wrong, if your engine's ticking, it could be, in the worst case scenario, a spun, canned shaft bearing or rod bang or something like that. That's also a possibility, especially if you run your motor low on oil a lot. And in these motors too, these same motors, it's easy because they do burn oil, so they do go low on oil a lot, even though they got the oil level management there. It's still possible, so that's a possibility. But if it is due to the AFM, which is what I'm describing in this video here, the thicker oil here will solve your problem. It calls for 530. And so what you're doing by putting the 1040 in is you're putting a thicker oil in, not only at cooler temperatures when it's not at operating temperature, but also at operating temperature. This oil stays thicker. So what that does is it increases your oil pressure, and it helps lubricate all parts of the engine, specifically those hydraulic lifters. So that's what you're going to want, and that's exactly what it does. So this should get rid of the ticking pretty quickly, and that worked on my truck. So I hope it works for you guys.